northbound I-15 just before 90th South has been moved off the roadway completely. That right lane of traffic is open once again, and traffic starting to move through the area much better, with a little bit of slowing it caused starting to really clear quickly. Murdoch Hyundai, home of 3.99% for 6 years on Santa Fe, Tucson, or Elantra. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs in the mid-70s over the next 2 days, but then some rain rolls in and will bring the temperature down on Thursday. 59 on Thursday, 55 on Friday, and weather in the 60s for Easter weekend. Right now it's mostly cloudy and 70 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
We are complying with all court orders. That's what White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said today when asked about the Supreme Court's order for the administration to, quote, facilitate the return of a Maryland man mistakenly deported to an El Salvadorian prison. Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host, Erin Ryder, here with our special guest host today, Rochelle Morris. Welcome to the show, Rochelle.
It's great to be here.
All right. So I am an attorney. I am also most recently the Republican nominee for Salt Lake County Mayor. Rochelle is a venture capitalist here in town and also happens to be the most recent Republican nominee for Salt Lake County Council. So Rochelle and I campaigned together on the trail, which means this is going to be a fun conversation today.
Erin, I've been missing you, so I am excited to be in studio with you this afternoon.
Here we go. All right. Well, we're starting with something not at all related to Salt Lake County. This is about national politics and the case of this. This case is just crazy. So, and it just keeps on going. What's really interesting about the whole thing is how everybody on both sides, the left and the right, are claiming the Supreme Court's ruling is a victory for them. So, Rochelle, I think I want to start just for a second because I had a moment this morning where I thought, I don't actually understand what's happening here and why everybody seems to be claiming that they're right on this. So let's just set the timeline and why this is so crazy, and then we can talk about it.
Could we please?
Yeah, let's do that. So, all right, here's what happened. So the man in question, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he originally came to the United States illegally. And part of the reason he came here was because his family... As a teenager. And part of the reason was his family had received threats from some of the gangs in El Salvador. He's originally from El Salvador. So they fled. They came to the United States, but they came illegally. Now, in 2019, he had a deportation proceeding, and the judge ruled in that case, and this is actually really important to this whole issue, the judge ruled that he could not be returned to El Salvador because of the danger to his and his family's life it's part of the reason why he originally came here, right? So the judge says you cannot be deported to El Salvador, end of story. And that gave him a path to citizenship. So he gets a work visa. He marries a U.S. citizen. And now we get to present day today, where he was arrested and deported by the Trump administration. Now, the Trump administration has acknowledged that this was a mistake, that this was an administrative error. And part of the reason that this was an error is because there was this order already out there that said you cannot deport this man, and more importantly, you cannot send him to El Salvador, right? So that was part of the error. Now, the Trump administration has never really pulled back on the assertion that this was an error, even though they put the attorney who said that on administrative leave. That's a whole different issue. So this gets appealed, right? His lawyers sue. This gets appealed. It goes up to the Supreme Court. And originally, the trial court judge said that the Trump administration needed to facilitate and effectuate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States. By the time it gets up to the Supreme Court, the court says you need to facilitate his return, but they did not affirm the word effectuate. And so now you have this weird situation where in many cases, everybody's right, because even though he was incorrectly sent to El Salvador, and the Trump administration has said he has ties to the MS-13 gang, There's some evidence for that, but frankly, not a lot. I don't know that that evidence would hold up in court very well.
It has not yet been proven.
And
in
it hasn't
court.
been proven, right? This is also part of the process we've talked about on the show before. There was no due process for this. So if there had been due process, they could have figured out, oh, well, we can't send him to El Salvador. And anyway, we're going to get into this in a second. But just to finish off this timeline, now he's in El Salvador in this prison. But because he's not a U.S. citizen, he's still technically an El Salvadorian citizen. And that means that El Salvador technically has jurisdiction over him. If he were a U.S. citizen, this would be a different story. If he had gone all the way to getting U.S. citizenship, it doesn't really matter that he was married to a U.S. citizen or had a work visa. He still is not a U.S. citizen. He's an El Salvadorian citizen. So then we get the president of El Salvador saying, well, what do you want me to do? He's one of our citizens.
I think yesterday he specifically said, am I supposed to smuggle him back into the United States?
Yeah. And the Trump administration is saying, well, we have no way to get him here because he is not an American citizen and it's El Salvador's jurisdiction. Also, this is foreign powers and therefore the courts can't tell us what to do here, which is true to some extent. And so we're sitting in a total no man's land. And the fact that the Supreme Court said that they needed to facilitate but did not go all the way to effectuate means all you got to do is try. All right, let's talk about this, Rochelle.
This seems like an open shut case or the exact opposite of it, which I think is why it has become the number one story across the country this week.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, this is a very, very complicated issue. And there's a lot of talk about the constitutionality. Is this a constitutional crisis? And if you really look at the nuance and the technicality of it, and on this show, we try to be big about that because understanding the nuance is important. The Trump administration isn't technically defying the Supreme Court because they have tried.
What does it mean to facilitate?
Yeah, what does it mean to facilitate, right?
And Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday made it very clear he's not a U.S. citizen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it also you can reasonably infer that the Supreme Court wanted the Trump administration to bring him back, and we all know, I just don't believe for a heartbeat that the Trump administration can't get him back. I mean, they're imposing like 140% tariffs on China as punishment. First of all, we're paying El Salvador $6 million for access to this prison. You're telling me that there's no process to bring somebody back who was incorrectly sent there? I mean, this is a huge, huge issue when it comes to process, right? We've talked before about the ready, fire, aim approach. Ready, fire, aim is really dangerous when you're dealing with people's lives. And yes, we want to see action. Yes, people want to see things happen. But if you do it at the expense of somebody's freedom, you better have a way to rewind that.
Absolutely. But I think that we also need to discuss, you and I, we both met thousands of people last year where I know I met residents of Salt Lake County who have been negatively impacted by illegal immigration over the last 4 years and Biden's policies and lack of enforcement and on our borders. And so, I can see why President Trump is behaving so assertively in his first 100 days in office. Like how he campaigned on the border was much more conservatively than he did in 2016 when he won that election. So I can understand why the Trump administration is acting so assertively and so aggressively. And I'm also grateful that we have the Supreme Court where I think this term facilitate is going to get worked out over the coming weeks. Wouldn't you?
Well, we're going to see, right? I mean, that's the big question mark is where do we go from here and how does this work? In fact, just in the last minute here that we have, let's talk about that. What can the courts do if they need to enforce this against the president?
She can hold the individual lawyers from the Department of Justice in contempt of court. Courts do have contempt powers. She could fine them day by day. She could put them in jail if they continue not to obey the order as she sees it. That would appeal and get to the Supreme Court again.
So, I mean, maybe, but also, again, you have this constitutional issue where foreign relations and foreign powers are the domain of the executive, and it would be improper for the court to step over that line too much. So anyway, there's a lot more to come on this. This is a big one, and we're certainly not done with this. In fact, we're not done with deportations at all. We're going to stick with the topic of deportations and focus in on deportations of college students here in Utah and across the country. Stay with us.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress. 988 Utah can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988.utah.gov.
Are you looking for a fun way to get your kids outside and off their screens this spring? Try flower gardening. Starting a beautiful flower bed or easy container garden is a great hands-on way to spend quality time together while teaching kids about nature. They'll love digging in the dirt, picking out their favorite flowers, and watching them bloom, all while making real, lasting memories. Plus, gardening is a great way to slow down, soak up some sunshine, and enjoy the fresh air as a family. This is Brian with Olson's Greenhouse, and my family has been growing flowers with care for 4 generations right here in Utah. Whether you have a big sunny backyard or just a small shady front porch, our colorful, locally grown flowers make it easy to add beauty to your home. So this spring, start with a new family tradition, one that grows with your kids. Get inspiration at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens on Instagram or find a garden center near you at ogg.com. That's ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
Is your AC ready for summer? Don't wait for the heat to hit. Weak airflow? Warm air? Strange noises? These are warning signs your AC needs attention. Our skilled technicians offer AC repair services or replacements to keep your family cool all summer long. Don't sweat it. 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning has your back. Here to keep your home cool all summer. Visit onehour.com to schedule today. Financing options available.
You know what's better than a limited time deal? An unlimited time deal. That's why the Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag with a Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, 4-piece nugs, Junior Hot and Crispy Fries, and small soft drink is available all the time. Because the best time for fresh, never frozen beef and Applewood smoked bacon is all the time. Duh. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's.
Unlimited time does not mean forever. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, and California and via third-party delivery. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
On the surface, it seemed like just another Cinderella story.
The team that was predicted to finish dead last is now waiting to play the first round of the playoffs.
But Real Salt Lake's 2021 playoff run was so much more than what happened on the pitch.
Our club is burning to the ground.
This is the tip of the iceberg.
Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
While much of the focus on deportations has been on the Maryland man mistakenly deported, there's been another large group of people facing deportation. That's foreign students attending U.S. universities. Last week, a judge said that the government could deport a foreign national because of their beliefs. Now, it looks like that may be happening on a broader level across the country, especially among students holding pro-Palestinian views. Golly, Aaron, we're just talking deportations to kick off the show today.
We are.
You know, when I look at this university student issue, did you study abroad?
I did. I studied in Spain.
Okay, and I studied abroad in London. And, you know, reflecting back on that study abroad, I mean, I was just so excited to go to another country to study that I wanted to follow every single rule, every single law, be, you know, just the best, most well-behaved student while I was over in London for the summer. What was your attitude as you went over the pond?
Yeah, I mean, I had the addition of a language barrier that I was still trying to learn. And, but yeah, I mean, I was just there, you know, wide-eyed and happy to be there, right?
Yeah, and so as I look at this issue that's happening here with foreign students on U.S. universities, it seems like there's a major correlation with pro-Palestinian students who are behaving as activists on college campuses, potentially interrupting the academics of the university. I don't know, Aaron, what are your thoughts on potentially deporting students or revoking student visas because of beliefs?
Yeah, well, you know, again, last week a judge ruled that the Trump administration could deport someone for their beliefs. And we have to draw a distinction here, right? Students who are here on visas are not American citizens. And when we talk about the Constitution, we've talked a lot about due process and that anybody has a right to due process because the whole point of due process is proving that the person you are accusing them of being is actually the person that they are. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the protections of the Constitution apply to everybody, especially people who are not U.S. citizens. So, what does that mean for a student who's here in the United States who is trying to basically using the First Amendment, the concept of free speech, to advocate for things that the United States government does not agree with? And that's an interesting place to be because on the one hand, we like the concept of free speech. We want free speech. It's important to have free speech. But does that mean that all free speech is allowed? I mean, the Supreme Court has ruled that no, there are limits on the First Amendment. And is it appropriate for the administration, the Trump administration, to look at some of this potentially as a national security issue or and some of this is, like you said, there are a lot of it that is pro-Palestinian students. One of the things that's interesting about this case recently is that you have a co-founder of Columbia University's Palestinian Student Union who is now has been taken into custody. Now, this guy, Mohsen Madawi, co-founded this group with Mahmoud Khalil, who was in the news a week ago for being exactly the same thing. Madawi is kind of taking the route that he is not the one who's done the riots, but still, right? I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Rochelle?
Well, you can't co-found a group and not be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Arthur Brooks was here in Utah several months ago, and he was talking about how universities need to be this melting pot of ideas and learning, and how, you know, you go back to the Vietnam War, right? Where were the student protests? Universities were where the protests were happening. And Arthur talked a lot just about this concept of colleges and universities being places for academia, learning, intellectual rigor, growth, debate, with also some activism. That has kind of been a part of the American university experience for many decades. He was contemplating that maybe universities across the country have stepped too far into the lane of activism over academics.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting position for universities to be in, particularly because, I did my graduate work at Georgetown University. I got my JD MBA there. And in the MBA department specifically, they did a lot of international recruiting and brought a lot of international students into the program, which I really appreciated because it meant that I was learning from classmates from China and India and Venezuela and Sweden and all over the place, in addition to my American classmates. And I really appreciated that. And I remember talking to some of them and hearing about how difficult it was for them to even get the visas to come here. And when we talk about immigration, kind of piggybacking on the discussion that we had previously, we want to incentivize good people to come to this country and to help us grow our economy and to help us grow as a nation. That's a good thing. And that's, in many ways, the purpose of immigration, is we want those people to come. Does this put us in a weird spot where we say you can come, but if we don't like you, we'll send you home? Now, we have the right to do that, but does it mean we should do that? And if so, where's the line?
Well, I'm not totally opposed to that idea of, if you want to come and study in an American university, then you should be a good player on campus. You should not be creating issues where American students are feeling compromised by going to classes on campus, depending on what their religious beliefs may be, or another characteristic or demographic that's inherent to them. And so I don't know. I'm kind of the mindset of, if you're coming to a university, especially a state-funded university where it's really the taxpayers of that state that are funding that campus, then you should play by our rules.
So, all right, then here's the follow-up. Where's the line? And how does the university actually police that? Do you have to have people who are watching foreign students at all times to make sure they say the right thing at the right time? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, and I think that's where maybe this conversation feels a little more theoretical for us, because when the Palestine protests happened at the University of Utah last year, the state came in and they shut it down that night, right? Mm-hmm. So they allowed students and activists to protest for several hours, but they did not get to camp overnight. And so Utah acted very aggressively, we'll say, in enforcement of just not allowing this to fester as far as an activist movement on the University of Utah's campus. I would say if we were sitting in New York, having a front row seat on what's happened on Columbia's campus, this would be less theoretical and more of it was this moment that the university should have stepped in and shut that down, and it compromised Jewish students on campus.
Yeah, I look at it, and for me, I think there are some pretty obvious points. If you have broken the law, sorry, like that, you put yourself in the path of deportation almost immediately, I think, right? You have to be law-abiding. Also, if there are instances of using that speech to bully others, one of the things the United States could and should be good at is providing a melting pot environment where everybody can be successful. And part of that is learning how to interact with people from different backgrounds in a productive way. And we can model that. We can model that for the entire world through our universities. And, the Trump administration has claimed that some of this is a pushback to students who have been, who have basically bullied or engaged in anti-Semitic behavior. And if that's the case, then I think that that's probably not inappropriate to also use that as a line to say, no, this is not how we operate as a country. Sorry, this doesn't work. But beyond that, right, if you are talking about Palestine and we just happen to be pro-Israel, does that put you in the crosshairs of ICE, basically?
Well, I completely agree with you. We are going to leave our listeners with that. When Inside Sources returns, a battle between the Trump administration and the private Harvard University over diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. We'll discuss how it's affecting funding for the university and if that's right or wrong. We'll be right back.
1:30 at KSL News Radio. Good afternoon. I'm Maria Shaleos. KSL's top local story this hour. We are hearing from one of the dozens of Utah college students who have had their student visas revoked by the federal government without notice. BYU PhD student Suguru Ondu says that he's been told to go back to Japan before the end of the month, even though he's been living here legally for years.
We are planning to go back to Japan during the summer, so every plan is ruined. Like my kids start worrying about it, and still we have no clue what to do.
His attorney says the government said it was because of his criminal history, but his lawyer says Suguru doesn't have one. He has 2 speeding tickets and a fishing citation that was dismissed back in 2019. Now his attorney is fighting to let him stay in the U.S. until he can get his visa reinstated. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. There's another hearing in federal court in Maryland today over the fate of a Salvadoran man who was sent by the U.S. to a prison in his native country.
On TV, administration officials have made stark claims.
He's part of a foreign terrorist organization, trafficking in his background.
We will not apologize for getting these monsters the hell out of our country.
But the evidence in court is scant. His family calls Kilmar Abrego Garcia a hardworking sheet metal apprentice. In 2019, an immigration judge protected him from being sent back to El Salvador, a move that allowed him to legally work. The federal judge who's now ordered that the government facilitate his return calls the allegations of gang membership vague and uncorroborated. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
The Trump administration fiercely argues that the man was a member of MS-13. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow down by 109 points. That's more than 0.25%, sitting at 40,416. S&P 500 down by 6. NASDAQ down by 22 points. Weather beginning to change. We'll get a look at the updated forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are 2 very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Utah. Have you been to a Utah Hockey Club game at Delta Center? If not, you are missing out. The NHL's newest team is heating up in the push towards the playoffs, and the atmosphere inside Delta Center is electric. Find your seats at UtahHockeyClub.com or on SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of the Utah Hockey Club.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy. Pretty much hands off, They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
you?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask like 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Take a moment to listen. Really listen. You can hear the world around you, but can you hear clearly? If not, turn a new page in your life. Turn to My Hearing Centers. Research shows good hearing stimulates your brain, which reduces memory loss and helps maintain a higher quality of life. If you're dealing with hearing loss, you owe it to yourself to call My Hearing Centers and schedule a free consultation. 801-438-7058. 801-438-7058. With locations from Ogden to St. George, My Hearing Centers, changing lives through better hearing.
Traffic and weather together is brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. And here's Ricky Meese.
We have a stalled vehicle on the exit ramp from westbound I-15 at Redwood Road. It is blocking a right lane of traffic. And downtown, crews are wrapping up an accident at 8th South and 200 East. You can always text us your traffic tips to the KSL Mountain Home Services text line. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. AdvancedWindows.com. Affordable windows guaranteed. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We could start to see some rain showers over the next couple of days. 10% tomorrow, 60% chance by Thursday, and then Friday 30%. It looks like, though, Easter Sunday looks nice with a high of 66 and only a 10% chance of rain. Right now, 69 degrees downtown. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
There's a battle brewing between the private Harvard University and the Trump administration over whether or not the government can tell a private entity what to do or what policies to have. The Trump administration had demanded that the university change its policies surrounding DEI and pro-Palestinian movements. The university's president said no.
In a scathing letter, the university's president blasting the administration for what he says is a violation of Harvard's First Amendment rights, writing, "No government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue."
So what does the Trump administration do in response? Well, as of yesterday, it said, we will withhold $2.2 billion, that's with a B, dollars in grant money that was supposed to go to Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron.
Yeah.
I mean, here we go. This is another conversation around public sector. What can the government do with a private entity?
Yeah, this has been a fight that has been brewing for a long time. The Trump administration has threatened to pull funding from several universities, not just Harvard, but Harvard is the first that has very openly pushed back like this, right? And in some ways, I'm not at all surprised that it's Harvard that's doing this. That seems like a very Harvard thing to do. But I think there's an interesting question here of what is the role of a university in connection with the government, whether or not it's a private or public university, right? Harvard takes a lot of money from the federal government. Every university does. And so is it appropriate? I'm taking a little bit of a controversial position here, but is it appropriate for Harvard to say, sorry, federal government, we're going to take your money, but you cannot tell us what to do under any circumstance?
Well, if we take a step back, right, if we remove the term university here and just look at a private entity that has applied for grant money from the federal government and has received these grant dollars, you and I both know part of grant programs from the federal government are the strings that come with it. It's the stipulations as part. And so it's fascinating to me that Harvard is basically saying, you don't get to tell us what to do here. We're the number one university in the nation. I mean, that's at least the tone that I'm getting.
Yeah, and so part of what the Trump administration has wanted is that they want Harvard to get rid of their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. They want to get rid of the fact that Harvard, or they want to ban masks at campus protests. They want merit-based hiring, admissions reforms, all this kind of stuff. They want Harvard to change their policies on. And Harvard, for its part, is responding to this and saying, quote, for the government to retreat from these partnerships now not only risks the health and well-being of millions of individuals, which is an interesting statement to me, but also
millions,
right? Millions of individuals, but also the economic security and vitality of our nation. Also interesting statement. And then they say, we have informed the administration through our legal counsel that we will not accept their proposed agreement. The university will not surrender its independence or its constitutional rights. And that's where I find this interesting, right? Like Harvard University's independence. What is the independence of a university when you take so much money from the federal government?
Yeah, I mean, my thought is if you're not taking federal funding, then great. You get to manage your private entity the way that you want to manage it. And you can tell the federal government, look, as long as we're abiding by the laws of the land, we don't have to follow these policies that you want us to follow right now. I also think about, well, golly, I also don't necessarily want universities to be shifting policies every 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Depending on who is in the Oval Office at any given point in time. But I don't know. I kind of think there are plenty of examples of universities and colleges where, they would either happily play by the rules of this administration to receive some of that grant money. I mean, what if the Trump administration said, hey, $2 billion up for grabs to American universities.
Yeah.
You must adhere by these policies in order to qualify for this grant money. Oh, I bet there'd be several universities that would happily comply.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right. $2.2 billion is a lot of money. And it's not even just that. It's also $60 million in contracts that's also on the line. This is becoming an even bigger issue now because late last night, Barack Obama actually stepped into this and issued a statement applauding Harvard for their actions. And he said, quote, Harvard has set an example for other higher ed institutions, rejecting an unlawful and ham-handed attempt to stifle academic freedom while taking concrete steps to make sure all students at Harvard can benefit from an environment of intellectual inquiry, rigorous debate, and mutual respect. Let's hope other institutions follow suit. This really, for me, in some ways, kind of gets at the heart of the DEI battle anyway, and where we go in a kind of a post-DEI world, sort of, but we're still fighting about it. Like I said, I went to Georgetown, and I was there during the 2016 election when Trump won his first term. And it was fascinating to sit in my law school classes after Trump had won and to see the way that my professors and other students were acting. For the most part, it was like a graveyard. People were so upset about it. And anybody who was openly excited about the fact that Trump had won became an instant pariah, instant pariah. And it was a moment for me where I thought, I had come from BYU, where in many ways I was a majority, and now I'm at Georgetown, where I'm kind of in the minority in terms of viewpoints. And I thought, okay, I can appreciate and understand why we're pushing back on DEI, because if you don't think the way that everybody else thinks, is there room? The university should have room for that dynamic. And I think that's where the Trump administration is trying to push on. Are they pushing too far? I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, well, it's one, if Harvard didn't punch back at the administration, then what university could, right? So
Yeah.
as I think about President Obama's remarks from last night. Number two, they have a $53 billion endowment.
They do.
I really am not shedding any tears for Harvard today on this news.
And maybe that's why they don't care. And they're saying, we can afford this, so fine, take our money, which will present an interesting fight in and of itself, right?
Yeah. Well, and being here in Utah, we've already removed the DEI programs from our university system, right? And so I sit on the advisory board at UVU's First Gen Student Success Center, and it's all merit-based, focused, and the only requirement is that you are a first-gen student to be a part of the Success Center. And so we actually end up with a very diverse group of students who are part of the Success Center. It's focused on getting to results, which I think the Trump administration is trying to get to too. And so next on Inside Sources, nearly 100 days into his second term in office, how many bills has President Trump signed? The administration says it's been the most productive in recent history, but is it? More on that after the break.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss, because right now you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Are you serious?
Just 3 weeks in, and the pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself. My body did exactly what it wanted to do. I just gave it its tools.
Let's spring into summer right now with Soda Weight Loss. If you want to look like this for summer, now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Remember, this is our best offer of the year, so let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
It's true, anyone can paint a room, a wall, the side of a house. It's also true that anyone can groom your pet.
Aw, poor thing. Is he sick?
Well, anyone can trim the trees. Anyone can coach.
Gina, throw it at the net thing.
It's Charlie, and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to kick the ball in soccer.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you always should. And when it comes to your home, not everyone can paint with character, integrity, and the knowledge that no one will ever do a better job. And that's who we are. I'm Adam with 5 Star Painting. New paint in your home takes that warm springtime feel to a whole new level. With 5starpainting.com, we offer hands-on management, and our partnership with Sherwin-Williams means we're painting with the industry's best materials. Trust our 20 years of experience, over 1,000 online beaming reviews, and our 2-year warranty that sets us apart from all the others. Remember, anyone can paint a room.
My masterpiece!
Oh, wow.
But the smart choice is 5 Star or nothing. 5starpainting.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. 800-961-5544. 800-961-5544.
You know what's better than a limited time deal? An unlimited time deal. That's why the Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag with a Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, 4-piece nugs, Junior Hot and Crispy Fries, and small soft drink is available all the time. Because the best time for fresh, never frozen beef and Applewood smoked bacon is all the time. Duh. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's.
Unlimited time does not mean forever. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, and California and via third-party delivery. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Meanwhile, at Xfinity. So, influencer life going well?
Oh, yeah. I'm up to 32 followers.
Oh, that's something.
Yeah, posting my tap dancing videos is easier than ever because we engineered Xfinity Internet with 99.99% network reliability.
Plus, Xfinity Mobile with Wi-Fi Power Boost gives you ultra-fast Wi-Fi at home and on the go. But wait, tap dancing? You don't tap dance.
Hey, what I lack in skill, I make up with passion.
Do more of what you love and love how fast you do it with Xfinity Internet and mobile. Through June 23rd, get 400 megabit Xfinity Internet with free equipment and unlimited internet data. Plus, get one unlimited 5G mobile line included, all for $40 a month for 1 year. And ask how you can get a free 5G phone. Visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply with paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Xfinity Internet required. Taxes, fees extra. After 1 year, rate increases to $70 per month. After 2 years, regular rates apply. Actual fees vary and not guaranteed.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We're nearly 100 days into President Trump's second term in the White House. His administration has said it's the most productive presidency in recent memory. However, the president has only signed 5 bills so far, which is a far cry from what he did in his first term, not to mention any of the other presidents that have come before him. And all of this while pushing out more than 100 executive orders. So it got us thinking, is there some kind of imbalance here? Now, Rochelle, let's talk about the numbers on this. So by this point in 2017, Trump had signed 24 bills into law. Today, we are only at 5 so far for this one. By this point in Biden's presidency, he'd signed 7 bills into law. In 2009, Barack Obama had signed 11. 2001, George W. Bush had signed 7. 1993, Bill Clinton had signed 21, et cetera, et cetera. We're on the cusp of Trump's 100th day in office. It's technically at the end of the month. I don't know. What do you think? How effective has Donald Trump been in the beginning of his second term?
Well, I think that this is an interesting metric to use to measure performance, right? Because I don't think that I would look at this metric and say, well, it seems like the president really hasn't been up to much of anything to kick off his presidency. In fact, I would say it's been quite the opposite, right? Tons of activity. Over 100 executive orders signed. He hit the ground running. Whether or not you agree with how he's hit the ground running, that's something to debate. But he definitely has approached this presidency with vigor.
Yeah.
And then we have this metric of, but only 5 bills signed so far.
Well, okay, so so actually, since you mentioned this, do you think how much has Trump accomplished in his first 100 days?
Oh, he's definitely been a disruptor.
There's a lot of noise. There are a lot of things going on. But I think this is an interesting conversation. Cut out all of the noise, how much has actually been accomplished?
Golly. Well, look, in my private sector work, I invest in innovative, disruptive startups, right? And our fund is a 10-year fund intentionally because we know it takes startups many years often to prove its product, to find that product market fit, right? And to go from, an initial product, an initial software, idea or app into something that millions of people are using on a daily basis. And so what I'm seeing from President Trump is he is approaching this presidency as a disruptor. Will he have the time to prove out his effectiveness on all the activity he's doing?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He doesn't have 10 years, right? He has 1 year until the midterms hit, which is, again, why I asked the question, how effective has he actually been? He has the benefit of not being a total newcomer to the presidency. He's done this once before. He's had 4 years to think about what he would do. He has a red wave. He's got a red House and a red Senate. He has all the things he needs to get stuff done. So has he done it?
Oh, I think 95-ish days or wherever we're at, 90-ish days, I think that's too short of a time period to measure effectiveness. But I think about how Congresswoman Celeste Malloy, when she was in town recently, I went to that town hall at the U, and in between the yelling at her, she did get a few talking points in, and one of them was, I'm giving the president some time here. And I also, am watching what he's doing, and I campaigned on this when President Biden was in office, and I am also speaking up on this, that I think that the executive branch has too much power. And so as a congresswoman, I'm focused on Congress becoming more effective while I'm in office. And so you look at what Speaker Mike Johnson has right now. He only has, I think 5 Republican majority.
It's super slim.
It's very slim. And so when you look at the number of bills signed so far, I mean, Paul Ryan, I think, had 26 more Republicans in his majority when Trump first took office in 2017. There were different dynamics for Congress and their ability to get bills done to put in front of the president in an efficient manner in that first 100 days.
Sure. I think that's totally valid. But I'm still going to push on this because...
Aaron!
Well, let's think about it, right? Donald Trump's thing is, I'm going to be better than any president that has ever come before me. And there is, we've talked about this before. He has more latitude than he did in his first term because people looked at President Biden's administration and said, we didn't get what we wanted. In fact, we feel like it was worse than what we had under the first Trump administration. So we're going to bring Trump back, and we're going to give him a longer leash because of that, right? So he has a longer leash than he probably would otherwise. Again, he has everything he could possibly need right now. And yes, the majority is super, super slim. But Trump's whole thing is, I'm a deal maker. I'm the guy who gets stuff done. And I think, Doge, I don't know, has Doge been effective?
I think Doge has absolutely forced us to look at government efficiency. Like we are now approaching, how is the government spending our money on an annual basis, and let's cut waste. And this is something where I think I'm okay with the idea that President Trump has Doge operating and auditing things and looking at things and bringing them to the surface and saying, hey, we've got to change something. I mean, you and I we're not necessarily young, but we're young enough that we're probably going to be alive 40 years from now. And I want a solvent U.S. government and U.S. balance sheet 40 years from now when we're in retirement. And so anytime you go through any budget cut, and this happens with any private business, some of my portfolio companies, they had to make some cuts this last year. It's really hard to do that. Yeah. Regardless of the size of entity.
No question.
And so I applaud the fact that President Trump is going after these hard issues that I think the American people hired him to do. Whether or not he's effective, it's too early to say. But I am curious what you think.
I think that Doge has been an excellent exercise in public relations, and frankly, nothing more. Yes, we're talking about it, and maybe long term that has implications. And if so, then that's great. But part of the problem is that their ability to do anything has been curtailed by the Supreme Court. And though, again, little bit of if there's one thing, listeners, you take away from today, it is process does matter. Whether we're talking deportations, whether we're talking Doge, whether we're talking anything else. And the Ready, Fire, Aim approach has backfired in some ways because they have not been able to come in and do what they wanted willy-nilly. That has backfired on them a little bit, and it has pulled back some of their ability to do stuff. Now, have they done nothing? No, but they've also been on the periphery. The big cuts in the federal budget are not the areas that Doge is targeting.
Well, and what I love about this is you're the attorney, right? So you keep going back to process. I'm the VC, so what's possible?
Well, coming up in the second hour of Inside Sources, Utah's economic outlook is ranking high again for the 18th year in a row. More on that coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station. Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shaleos. KSL's top story this hour. We all have until midnight to get our taxes filed.
We can always extend the return. And I always encourage, if you don't have your stuff put together, let's at least extend the return so that you don't get penalized for not filing in a timely manner.
CEO Susan Spears with the Utah Association of Certified Public Accountants says you should still try and pay any taxes owed today because an extension does not stop you from getting penalized for paying late. She also says you can both file and pay electronically. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The measles outbreak is growing in Texas with 561 total cases. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was asked about it today.
Healthy children should not die of measles, and there's no reason they should. If the doctors know how to treat at the hospital, that will not happen.
2 unvaccinated children with no underlying conditions have died. Taking a look at your money at this moment, at the close, the Dow down by 109 points, about 0.25%, sitting at 40,415. S&P 500 down by 6. The NASDAQ down by 22 points. Clouds have moved in, weather changing a bit. We'll get an update of the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Listen up, Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the way. We've done this before. Music videos, fanny packs, even the World Wide Web. So let's do it again and get vaccinated. We're at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults under 50. Gen X, this is our shot. Visit vaxassist.com to schedule. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Thinking about the future can be a lot. I just got my first job out of college. That means thinking about a car, building credit, and saving for emergencies. I'd rather be in the gym working on my gains. But with Cypress Credit Union, all those worries fade away. Whether it's high-yield savings products or an auto loan once I'm ready to get a sweet new ride. Cypress is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypresscu.com today.
Cypress Credit Union, your future is our future.
Federally insured by the NCUA.
As a business owner looking to take your business to the next level, it's all about the right marketing. But what exactly is right for you? At KSL News Radio, we are ready to help you craft the perfect comprehensive strategy. Whether it's our powerful talent endorsements, engaging live interviews, creative production, live events, or our extensive digital platforms, we've got you covered with the right solution. Contact Stephanie Palmer today, spalmer@ksl.com, and let's grow your business together. Email spalmer@ksl.com.
Every year, we seem to have a few people trying to get our free furnace promotion after the sale is ended. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I know you want to save as much money as you can, but that's not how sales work. When they're over, they're over. Lucky for you, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I got to pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, don't be one of those people that wishes they had called and taken advantage of our free furnace sale. The estimate's free, and we'll make sure you have all of the information you need to decide if our free furnace sale is right for you. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together is brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. What's happening, Ricky?
Up north, way up north in Box Elder County, we have a crash on northbound I-15. It's just north of Tremonton. After the I-84 junction, it's blocking a left lane, causing some delays. And then here, a little closer to home, Murray PD still asking drivers to avoid the area. The road is still closed at 7th West and Winchester. That's 6400 South due to an earlier crash. They're still investigating the scene. Murdoch Hyundai, home of 3.99% for 6 years on Santa Fe, Tucson, or Elantra. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today, the high headed up to 74, up to 76 tomorrow, but some showers moving in. 10% chance on tomorrow, and then a 60% chance on Thursday. Right now, mostly cloudy, 70 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
If you've been listening to Inside Sources for quite some time, you'll recognize that we're pretty proud of our state and the things that we do here. Yes, we have some issues, but overall, Utah is a pretty darn good place to live. Now, for the 18th year in a row, we're topping the charts for economic outlook. Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Erin Ryder here with our guest host, Rochelle Morris. Hi, Rochelle.
Hi.
And,
Utah, people working together.
There you go. That's your musical moment of the show. This morning, the newest data was released showing how Utah compares to other states in several different economic categories. We're really lucky to have one of the authors of this new report with us today. We have Jonathan Williams, President and Chief Economist at ALEC, in the studio. Thank you for joining us, Jonathan.
Well, thanks for the invitation, and congratulations to the people of Utah for this incredible honor of now 18 years in a row being number one for economic outlook in America.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the report. How do you put this together? Just tell us about this for anyone who may not have seen the press release from this morning.
Yeah, it's a report that we put together. It was my day one project at ALEC, so I've been involved with it from the very start. But we put it together to give policymakers in Salt Lake, in state capitals all across the country, but moreover, hardworking Americans all across the board, a way to measure their states versus the other 49. We have this inherent, 50 laboratories of democracy we like to talk about. And it's part of the beauty of the American experiment is the founders gave us the idea where you have states that compete directly with each other. And what we see in the private sector is what happens with competition. You see costs go down and quality go up. We see the exact same things when states compete with each other. And so in the Rich States, Poor States report here, we rank the states based on 15 different economic criteria, such as taxes, and labor policy and regulations and spending and debt levels by state, things that we know matter for the health of a state. And why is it that some states are rich and getting richer, and why is it that some states are poor and getting poorer? And that's a big question to answer, and it's a question that's a operative question for state legislators all across the country.
There are so many inputs that go into this report and this ranking. And so for Utah to top this ranking for an 18th consecutive year, what is it about Utah? I mean, we like to brag about the beehive, but what is it really when you look at the numbers that get us to the top of the charts?
It's a commitment to continued positive change from your leaders here in Utah. I firmly believe that. We said that at the press conference today with Senate President Stuart Adams, who's become a great friend, Speaker Schultz, Governor Cox. They all are not just looking at this year's policies. They're looking across the country to say, what is it that other states are doing and how do we stay ahead at Utah? And this has been the case for a long number of years. The first year I was here in 2007 to launch the first edition of Rich States, Poor States. We were talking to a different set of leaders, a different governor at that time, but you've had that common thread, even as the faces have changed, of people that are committed to the future of Utah, to staying ahead of the rest of the country by cutting taxes and keeping government in a limited level, providing those core government services that your citizens need, but doing it in a way that doesn't overly burden the taxpayer and small business. And that's really, I think, the secret to the success, because we've actually run the numbers now. I was very curious about this. And so we said, what if Utah would have just rested on its laurels and stayed exactly where it was and all the policy factors that we measure after ranking number 1 in 2007 and just letting the chips fall? So it turns out Utah would rank today 23rd in economic outlook if it would have just stayed still. So, I mean, one of the key lessons from this report every year is states can absolutely fall behind by standing still. Thankfully for the people of Utah, leaders here don't do that. They keep moving forward with that positive change. And that's just an incredible facet of how Utah stays ahead.
Well, so I have kind of a two-part question here for you. The first is, we've talked a little bit about how Utah is unique in that we have the first legislative session of the calendar year. And so a lot of other states do look to Utah for policy as kind of a leader in the policy-making space. I'd be curious to know your thoughts on how Utah maybe has influenced other states, the model, and now that we're on this list for, so long, right? Does that have an influence on other states? And, well, let me just ask you that question. We'll go with that question.
Yeah, and we could probably talk about this for an hour, because there's lots of ways and policies that we can point towards that Utah was the leader of the pack, and now we've seen, in some cases, dozens of states try to follow in that direction. That's why if that scenario played out like I was just talking about, Utah would be 23rd today if they wouldn't have stayed ahead. And so the flat tax being one of them. This was a 2007, 2008 timeframe bill that Utah, in the modern era of state big tax reforms, Utah was the first state to move from a graduated progressive income tax to a single rate flat tax. It doesn't penalize people as they're more successful and doesn't penalize small business. It's an incredible facet now that we've seen 7 states follow Utah's suit since that huge reform in 2007. Another big one is pension reform, something that is good for new workers coming into state government so they can take that money with them from job to job, but it also protects taxpayers. And states across the country are envious of the fact that Utah doesn't have billions of unfunded pension liabilities that are really plaguing states like Illinois that we hear about as driving tax burdens upwards in other states. And you could go down the list. Another big one is just the issue of property taxes. Property taxes across the country are vexing taxpayers and homeowners across the states. Utah, almost 40 years ago this year, passed Truth in Taxation to actually have an honest discussion about what's driving property tax burdens and have local government officials become accountable for raising, whether it's through assessments or through rate increases on property. And so even as the price of housing has gone up, as you've seen so many people look to take advantage of the lifestyle and the lower taxes in Utah, one of the reasons why property taxes has not gone up in Utah versus other states is that Truth in Taxation law. It's an incredible success story that even in the last 5 years, we've seen several states replicate.
Well, and I've never seen someone talk in such a chipper manner about property taxes. So thank you, Jonathan, for that tutorial. Something that you touched on, the flat tax. Utah leads the nation in upward mobility. I assume the flat tax is a component of that. What are some other factors about our state?
Yeah, upward mobility is a key facet. It's, Utah's not just the fastest growing state when it comes to GDP over the last year at 4.5% GDP growth, which states are envious of. Think about that if we could get that nationally, what that would do to our national debt and so many other facets. It's not just the fastest growing state for job creation over the last decade, but that element of it, of upward mobility, is so important. And I think it revolves around the idea of keeping government limited and making sure that individuals have an upward opportunity through job creation. And so that, I think, is very well connected to job creation numbers that we were talking about over the last decade. Upward mobility, people come to those states. That's the number one reason the Census Bureau gives us, the survey data, why people vote with their feet and go away from high-tax states to low-tax states like Utah. The number one reason they go is for economic opportunity, and they're looking for that upward mobility, and they're seeing that in Utah.
So with about a minute or so that we have left here, we're seeing a change from the national government, from the Trump administration, to push responsibility down towards the states. How do you think this changes the responsibility of states when it comes to their own economic outlook, if now they're taking on some of the responsibilities that used to be managed by the federal government?
Great question. And it really will expose the states that overextended themselves and depended too heavily on the federal funds in the first place. Thankfully, Utah is not one of those states. Utah's thought around the corner and said, what do we do if and when the federal government reduces aid to the states, and have a plan in place? That's one of the reasons why Utah's kept a AAA bond rating frustrating for all these years. They point to that. But I think it's a great positive development that we're seeing Secretary Linda McMahon saying not just states should have more autonomy of education, but parents should have more autonomy in education, and shifting that responsibility from a bureaucracy in Washington that's never educated a single child in its 40-plus year history to states that manage education well, and to parents that manage education even better. So that's a great development. Among other things that are coming from Washington, I think the Trump administration is looking at ways to empower states and allow states to lead and innovate. And at the end of the day, that's part of the beauty of the American experiment.
Yeah, well, and it's like you said, right? We have 50 laboratories of democracy, and looking ahead at this, I love the fact that Utah has done so well. I'm so proud of that. I think that, right, Rochelle? Like, that's just an exciting factor.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I moved here for economic opportunity.
There you go. That's right. Case in point. Well, this is so great. Jonathan Williams, President and Chief Economist at ALEC, thank you so much for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you so much, and congrats again to Utah.
That's right.
There we go.
We're going to have a party over here at KSL.
Woo!
All right, coming up on Inside Sources, last week we highlighted a few key focuses of a trade mission, speaking of, between Utah state and business leaders and our neighbors to the north in Canada. After the break, we're going to get a full recap and discuss what that mission could mean for the average Utahn.
You know when you're racing into the store and someone interrupts you with a petition and you just sign it so you can move on? Stop. Don't sign it. Unions are trying to overturn a law that protects our kids. By signing, you're supporting handing over your tax dollars to big unions so they can push their radical agenda into classrooms. Stop the unions. Stand for kids. Tell your friends and family. Decline to sign the union petition. Utah Parents United paid for this ad, not authorized by any political issues committee.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them, the right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for autopay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Meanwhile, at Xfinity.
So, influencer life going well?
Oh, yeah. I'm up to 32 followers.
Oh, that's something.
Yeah, posting my tap dancing videos is easier than ever because we engineered Xfinity Internet with 99.99% network reliability.
Plus, Xfinity Mobile with Wi-Fi Power Boost gives you ultra-fast Wi-Fi at home and on the go. But wait, tap dancing? You don't tap dance.
Hey, what I lack in skill, I make up with passion.
Do more of what you love and love how fast you do it with Xfinity Internet and mobile. Through June 23rd, get 400 megabit Xfinity Internet with free equipment and unlimited internet data. Plus, get one unlimited 5G mobile line included, all for $40 a month for 1 year. And ask how you can get a free 5G phone. Visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply with paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Xfinity Internet required. Taxes, fees extra. After 1 year, rate increases to $70 per month. After 2 years, regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary and not guaranteed.
Break your spring break routine and make your way into a unique balance of outdoor adventure and arts. In Cedar City and Bryan Head, you'll be greeted with stunning views combined with the most epic trails at Cedar Breaks or Three Peaks Recreation Area. Recreation enthusiasts, we're talking to you. Visit Parowan's Evil Water Bike Trails, Thor's Hammer, and Kolob Canyon to take the ride and hikes of your life. The trip wouldn't be complete without one of the scenic drives and byways in the region to experience breathtaking overlooks and magical views. That's not all. Cedar City is known as Festival City USA, hosting dozens of events including free music festivals, parades, farmers markets, and more. But make sure to spend a little time in their historic downtown, lined with quaint shops, eateries, and museums. So break away to the vibrant and welcoming communities of Bryan Head and Cedar City. Plan your visit today at cedarcity.com. That's cedarcity.com.
Is your financial advisor offering you up to a 30% upfront bonus? Are they promising you up to 10% growth per year guaranteed for your retirement income? If not, you need a new financial advisor. I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. If you plan to retire within the next 10 years, don't wait only to find out it's too late. I've seen hard-working folks like you retire only to be required to go back to work, all because their advisor told them guarantees like these were too good to be true. They're not. That's up to $30,000 up front or up to $10,000 per year on $100,000, all guaranteed for retirement income. Don't work when you're supposed to be retired. And if any financial advisor tells you it's too good to be true, they simply don't have the options we do. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Mining and artificial intelligence. We touched on both of these points last week when we spoke about Utah leaders visiting Canada for a trade mission. And now that everyone's back in the Beehive State, well, we wanted to chat about the potential impacts of a closer partnership between Utah and Canada and what that could mean for the average Utahn looking ahead. Joining us to help with this bit of discussion is a good friend of the show, good friend of mine too, Jonathan Friedman, President and CEO of World Trade Center Utah. Jonathan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, great to be here, Rochelle and Aaron. Thanks for having me.
So talk to us about the trade mission. What were the big takeaways, the highlights of last week's trip?
It was fabulous. So Governor Cox led a delegation of 40 Utah businesses from kind of across the state in higher education, state leaders to Montreal and Toronto. We said to ourselves, and this certainly is what the governor repeated, we can't control what comes out of Washington, D.C., but it was an opportune moment for Utah to shine. It's exactly what happened. We wanted to show up on a subnational level, focus on diplomacy and economic development, fostering opportunities for Utah companies to grow into the Canadian markets and attracting foreign direct investment to our state, really building robust trade corridor between Utah and Montreal and Toronto.
So, Jonathan, I think for a lot of our listeners, we think about trade missions from a national standpoint, but we don't always think about them from a local standpoint. And so tell us, how do these trade missions help Utah? What is, you just talked about a trade corridor with Canada. Do we have good relations with Canada right now anyway? How do these trade missions kind of help the state grow?
Yeah, great question. So we do have great relationship with our partners and our neighbors to the north. However, it's no secret that those relationships, just from a national level, have been strained with talks of tariffs and potentially, the Canada becoming part of the United States. And so, we weren't totally sure how our partners would receive us, and they weren't sure how we'd receive them. And I'm just so glad to say that it was a warm reception. We both, just reinforced that we want to be good partners. Utah shows up Utah finds opportunities despite whatever the obstacles may be geopolitically. We're going to do. We're entrepreneurial. We're innovative. We're collaborative, and so that's exactly what they wanted to hear. And we just reinforce those great relationships that we already have.
Now, I know that Utah-based Recursion also has a Canadian headquarters in Toronto, that the trade mission visited those Toronto headquarters. Can you walk us through just how these types of entities are structured between a Utah-based headquarter and a Canadian-based headquarter, and what did you learn as part of visiting their Toronto branch?
Yeah, Recursion is a great Utah success story that has real traction in the life science space, identifying therapeutics using AI, having real traction with artificial intelligence. And basically, they can model drugs that will benefit us and then do lab tests based on those models using AI. So, and they're connected to the Mila Institute in Montreal and the Vector Institute with the University of Toronto in Ontario. So both cities that we visited had Recursion offices. Really, really cool. So it's a company that's based here that through acquisitions have a Canadian presence there. And the Mila Institute, the Vector Institute, these are leaders. They're global leaders in artificial intelligence. So it was just a phenomenal opportunity for our business community and state leadership to be there and hear about cutting edge advancements and understand best practices. I'll also say that both those institutions recognize that Utah leads in policy work at the state level in artificial intelligence. We were so proud of that, and those types of interactions on the ground just connect us further and set up wonderful opportunities moving forward.
So actually, I want to ask you about that on the AI piece, because there was talk about an AI hub, right? And I was wondering if you could tell us more about that. What are the kind of the goals coming out of this trade mission with regards to Utah and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, well, Utah is already committed to investing quite a bit in artificial intelligence. For example, President Randall at the University of Utah committed $100 million a year plus ago, maybe a year and a half ago, in AI investment. So, when we talked to our partners about that, and we had representatives from higher education with us, including the University of Utah, I mean, they get excited about that. That provides for all sorts of collaborations and exchange opportunities with students. Absolutely plugs into the business community and accelerates economic opportunities and development between Utah and Canada.
So looking ahead, Jonathan, I've been on one of these trade missions to Mexico, right? Where then, as an investor, I'm then meeting with attorneys and engineers and trying to get economic activity inside of my fund's portfolio. But kind of talk to our listeners about what the kinds of deals and economic activity that you hope to see happen over the next 12 to 18 months because of this trade mission with 40 businesses.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up Mexico, Rochelle. It was a great trade mission in the past with Governor Cox. And we also just had a business trip. We brought a mining delegation to Mexico last month. And so as we were gearing up for both Mexico and Canada, of course, a common question was, are you going to cancel these trips in the face of tariffs and negotiations with our North American partners? And we said, absolutely not. This is Utah's moment to show up and identify opportunities. While our team was on the ground, we saw real tangible opportunities for Utah companies to grow in both Canadian and Mexican markets. attracting that investment that you're talking about. So there were deals made on the ground. There are all sorts of discussions happening now. So over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to see lots of investment in our state. That's in part because of what we're seeing coming out of Washington. I mean, one of the main points of tariffs and of President Trump's initiatives are to bring manufacturing onshore to build our capabilities here in the United States. And as a result, we're seeing lots of foreign direct investment come to the state of Utah and to states around the country. So we want countries to know that we're open for business. We want to be strategic about it, right? We're already growing. We're the fastest growing state in the nation. So we don't want to we want to be very targeted and strategic. We understand that our resources are somewhat limited when you're talking about water and housing. So, but we can go about it in a very strategic way that creates high-paying jobs at home, international partnerships abroad, and increases our quality of life here in Utah.
Well, I'd love to hear that. Jonathan Friedman, President and CEO of World Trade Center Utah, thank you for joining our show this afternoon.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and next on Inside Sources, we'll dig into the revival of Bernie Sanders and AOC and whether that brand of politics has a place in the Democratic Party. Stay with us.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. KSL's top local story this hour. Rose Park is getting a facelift. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly with details on how drivers are going to be impacted in the meantime.
Drivers on the west side of Salt Lake need to prepare for 2 years of traffic delays. The city is starting full reconstruction of the 600 and 700 North Corridor tomorrow. City officials stated in a press release they are adding bike lanes and improved crosswalks, among other safety upgrades. The $20 million project between 800 West and Redwood Road will coincide with a separate UDOT project, which is replacing a bridge over the Jordan River on 700 North. Crews say the project will take more than a year, but hopefully be done by 2027. Heather Kelly, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Police in Dallas have responded to a high school shooting.
According to Dallas schools, police responded to a shooting at Wilmer Hutchins High School. Students could be seen coming out of the school. Police were outside with long guns. This student came out.
We're just in a foyer, a few students in there just talking, and all of a sudden it got quiet and you just hearing gunshots.
Police haven't said what led up to the shooting. Multiple ambulances responded to the high school. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 109 points today. And coming up, a look at how long it's going to stay warm. KSL weather is on the way next. Stay with us. KSL News Time, 2:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Traffic getting by in a single file to the right due to a crash in Box Elder County northbound I-15 north of Tremonton after the I-84 junction. There is some backups in the area. A little closer to home, Valley Freeway traffic looks good with no accidents or delays. You can always text us your traffic tips into the KSL Mountain Home Services text line at 57500. Advanced Window Products, factory direct affordable windows. Call today, they're on their way. Financing available. Save now, pay later. AdvancedWindows.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL forecast 74 expected this afternoon, down to 51 overnight, then 76 degrees tomorrow. Thursday, it's going to be rain, a high of only 59. Right now, 70 degrees. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
As Democrats search for the message they hope will win them Congress in the midterms next year, the more liberal members of the party are going around the country hoping to get their message out front and center. Over the weekend, Bernie Sanders and AOC rallied here in Salt Lake City, taking aim at billionaires galore. Take down the oligarchy. Fight the oligarchy. Aaron, were you there?
No, I was watching a Palm Sunday service with some friends.
Hey,
so I was not there.
I was also at a Palm Sunday service.
Oh, I wonder if we were watching the same one.
The Tabernacle
one?
one? Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, the interfaith one.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was not there. And actually right now they're holding, AOC and Bernie Sanders are holding a rally in California. I think yesterday they were in Idaho. This was big news in Utah. They brought out 20,000 people to their rally. Do you think all of those people were Democrats?
I think 99% are registered
Do we
Democrats.
have 20,000 Democrats in the state of Utah?
I saw all these national headlines floating around Twitter or X yesterday, and deep red Utah. Wow, 20,000 people attending something in deep red Utah. And there's just intellectual dishonesty here. Because you look at Kamala Harris's performance in Salt Lake County in November, she beat President Trump by 52,000 votes in Salt Lake County. 273,000 votes, I believe, was what she garnered in our county alone. So I think there are 20,000 Democrats who live relatively close to the University of Utah.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Let's listen to a couple of short clips on what Bernie Sanders and AOC said while they were here, starting with Bernie Sanders.
We do not want a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, for the billionaire class. We want a government that represents all of us, not just the 1%. Thank you, Utah!
All right, and then here's AOC.
They have one central economic mission: to make billionaires richer at the expense of the United States of America. And it does not surprise us that their first economic mission has been to target Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, firing our federal workers and cutting benefits from our veterans for hundreds of billions of dollars so that they can hand that money off to the wealthiest.
So we have debated, are we going to see a Bernie Sanders AOC ticket in 2028? And that's not the question I want to ask you. The question I want to ask you is, do you think a Bernie Sanders AOC ticket is the right ticket in 2028 for the Democrats?
Absolutely not. No. I think they're going too far to the left. And I saw on, I think it was CNN last week, where there was polling done that showed for the first time in decades, Americans saying that the Republican Party feels like they're representing them more than the elites right now, for the first time in decades. And so, the Democratic Party's overall favorability is at what, like 29% right now. I think they have shifted too far to the left. And you look at the lineup of speakers who were at this rally, there were no Ben McAdams type moderate Democrats or a Jim Matheson type moderate Democrat, or even a new Democrat face like a Grant Miller or a Verona Maunga who got elected to the legislature and actually got some policy work done during the session. Instead, it was an elected official who gets zero policy work done at the legislature.
We're going to call this out because that's my elected official, Senator Nate Bluin, and he was they were saying he is the heart and soul, the beating heart. He's the face of the Utah Democratic Party, but he has had no legislation.
Zero. And to the Democrats' credit, they had 5 freshmen in the House, and all 5 of them passed at least one bill this session. So there are newcomers getting elected who are operating in a collaborative way that we have seen before in Utah politics, yet you see this rally and they're not the ones who are getting airtime.
Yeah,
I found that confusing, quite frankly.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was an interesting, well, again, it's a question of, is this the right ticket for Democrats? Because Democrats in Utah who pass legislation, they know how to work across the aisle. And I'll give our legislature credit that both Republicans and Democrats do try to work with each other, and that oftentimes the Democrats do get a lot of legislation passed.
Jennifer Plum's my state senator. So, Nate Bluin's wow, we live in the blue part of Salt Lake County.
We do.
But Jen Plum, I think she's gotten 24 or 25 pieces of legislation done since getting elected in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal, right? And so, again, this is why I'm wondering, the people that they're bringing out for this, not that I'm necessarily trying to call out people here in Utah, but it's a larger question about where the Democratic Party is going with its messaging. And I don't know. I don't know that this works. I mean, the Republican Party won specifically because it pushed back on exactly this messaging from people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. So is this the right way for the Democrats to be going about this? And if not, then why are Bernie Sanders and AOC doing this?
Yeah, great question on why they're doing this. One takeaway for me with this rally was, if my Democrat neighbors in my Salt Lake City neighborhood, besides having a legislative, representation, from our federal delegation, our governor, Speaker of the House, Senate President, and now the President of the United States, too. It's Republican, 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 Republican. And just that boiling frustration, I think, that didn't exist when Biden was in office, but now that Trump is in office, you can have Bernie and AOC roll into town and get 20,000 people to show up to something on a Sunday afternoon, where I don't think during the Biden presidency, folks would have shown up in mass like that.
Yeah. Well, an AOC just this quarter raised $9.6 million in fundraising. Like, to me, in some ways, I feel like if you are not going to run for president and vice president on a ticket into 2028, then in some ways I'm kind of offended by this rally and by this whole thing, because it's a fundraising thing.
It absolutely is a fundraiser for her.
Fine, but that kind of ticks me off. Like, don't come to my state. You don't represent my state. Don't come here and ask for my money if you're not going to try and and if you're not actually going to show up on a presidential ticket and try and do something about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the Democratic Party tent grew this weekend with that rally here in the state.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair statement. But again, we have a lot of Democrats here. And actually, one thing I do want to say is that they had Caroline Gleick there. She was our recent Democratic nominee for United States Senate, ran against John Curtis. And she called out the fact that today is the last day for signatures on the referendum. And so with just the last 30 seconds that we have here, I thought I'd mention that. We'll see once all these signatures are in what happens with this referendum. And we're certainly probably going to talk about it again on the show if they do pass that threshold.
Oh, it's absolutely going to come down to the wire over the next 45 days.
But yes, there's much going on with that. But interesting that she called that out, right? That she was there at the rally and specifically called out, go and sign this petition.
I thought it was great timing for that. A signature gathering initiative,
yes,
for sure. Well, in our final segment on today's Inside Sources, speaking of billionaires, several wealthy women took to the stars in the Blue Origin mission yesterday. Was it really a win for women everywhere, or was it a flop?
I'm so excited for this conversation.
Can't wait.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history.
Cherie Warren disappeared.
Are now together for free at kslpodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files. Season 2, Justice for Joyce. And Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
Make Mother's Day easy this year and get the best gift ever, a blanket from Minky Couture. Minky Couture creates the amazingly soft, comfy, and cozy Minky blankets and robes. Just in time for Mother's Day, save 50% off any regularly priced Minky Couture blanket using promo code KSL50 at checkout. Shop online at minkycouture.com or visit your local Minky Couture for special neighborhood deals. Again, save 50% with promo code KSL50 in stores or online at minkycouture.com.
Spring is the perfect time to refresh your home, and Zero-Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is here to help. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, plus a free hallway for just $119. And for a whole home refresh, take 20% off upholstery cleaning. Unlike traditional cleaners, Zero-Res uses patented ZR water, a powerful cleaning solution that lifts dirt and grime without harsh chemicals or detergents. That means your carpets and upholstery stay cleaner, longer, and dry in hours, not days. It's safe for kids, pets, and the environment. Plus, every cleaning comes with the Zero-Res Gotta Love It guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, Zero-Res will re-clean for free within 30 days. Don't miss out on these limited time offers because spring cleaning starts now. Get started today at Zerores.com and mention KSL to lock in your deal. That's Zerores.com. As a business owner looking to take your business to the next level, it's all about the right marketing. But what exactly is right for you? At KSL News Radio, we are ready to help you craft the perfect comprehensive strategy. Whether it's our powerful talent endorsements, engaging live interviews, creative production, live events, or our extensive digital platforms, we've got you covered with the right solution. Contact Stephanie Palmer today, spalmer@ksl.com, and let's grow your business together. Email spalmer@ksl.com.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Jeff Kaplan.
I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Rochelle, I am so excited for this final segment of Inside Sources. We are going to talk about the Blue Origin flight mission, the all-female crew, including...
It was historic.
The historic all-female flight crew, including pop star Katy Perry and Jeff Bezos' girlfriend/fiance Lauren Sanchez, as well as a host of others.
Gayle King.
And you can probably tell where I'm going with this already by the people that I have named as part of the mission. But tell me, what do you think, Rochelle? Was this one giant step for womankind?
It was an 11-minute flight to suborbital space that involved a woman with over 200 million Instagram followers, right? And so, you know, what I will give this all-women crew, where the flight was remotely piloted.
Yes, that is cool.
It is, one, that is very cool. I invest in technology, so I can't help but think, wow, like they brought a lot of publicity to technological innovation. And guess what? When it's time to actually hop on board and go to space, even if it's just for 11 minutes, well, it takes some guts to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And Katy Perry comes, lands, kisses the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And, but you know, she talked about the experience was second only to motherhood. And you know what? I'll take any publicity stunt that talks about how amazing motherhood is.
Well, in fact, let's listen really quickly to what Katy Perry said.
I brought a daisy because I have so much love for my daughter Daisy, and I have so much love for Mother Earth. And I believe you can see the beauty in the Mother Earth in a single resilient daisy.
Look, I am good for Katy Perry, right? But here's my problem with it. Katy Perry has had a terrible album come out. She's got a tour that has to do well or her career might be over. And she just happens to be on an all-female PR stunt trip to space where she releases the set list for her tour while she's in space. And then she lands and she walks out the door with her arm in the air and she kisses the ground. And I just feel like if I were going to choose a group of women to go to space and have an all-female flight, I don't think this is it.
Who would you pick to be on your all-women crew?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Well, how about all the female astronauts that we already have? I mean, you know, let's talk about the astronauts who were just up in space, stranded for 9 months at the space station. One of them was a woman. And I mean, there are some really incredible women already in this space who I think don't get enough credit for being there. And I'd love to see a mission that, you know, where we highlight the work that they're already doing. I mean, I'm sorry, but, you know, watching Lauren Sanchez walk out and she's in like a super form-fitting, bell-bottom looking like spacesuit. I mean, come on. The only reason you're there is because your fiance owns the rocket. It's the only reason you're there. You don't represent women in any other way. I don't know.
Yeah, but no,
am I being too harsh?
Well, I mean, a little bit, but I look at, you know, Gayle King talks about afterwards how she hates flying, right? And she just went to outer space. And hey, if I was given that opportunity, I think I would have jumped on board with that all women crew and experienced those 11 minutes, right? Like, it's definitely different than anything that happens on this earth. But you did bring up a great point, and it just reminded me of how when I was living in Houston, one of my closest friends was a mechanical engineer for NASA in Houston, and she was working on a project on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Yeah,
that's
very
where there's so many women who are involved in our space exploration programs, whether it's, you know, this flight specifically or NASA or SpaceX, where they really are a part of the innovation that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, did this bring more attention to them? I hope. Maybe it will.
No.
No.
Let's be honest. No. Katy Perry's not talking about all the great women involved in NASA. I mean, look, space exploration has long been something that has fascinated me. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. One of my very favorite movies of all time is the movie Contact.
Oh, Contact. Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster, early Matthew McConaughey. Like, I am all for that movie at any time. It just totally is amazing to me. So there are a lot of things about this that I think could have been so great. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm being
a little facetious,
ultra snarky today, is because let's talk about the fact that this was a remote operation. That's really interesting. And what does that mean for space exploration in the future? But let's talk about the women who are involved in the space program. That's really cool. There are a lot of really cool things they're doing.
But the cameras pan to the Kardashians.
But like, come on. I mean, come on. It just, again, if we're talking about like feminism and girl power, I didn't get that from this whole thing. You know, they're talking about taking glam into making space glam. And I'm like, that's not the point of space. Like, we're not talking about being glam in space. We're talking about exploration and science and discovery and what that means for humanity.
Well, and let's just give a quick shout out to the first American woman in space, Sally Ride, who actually did her job on the space shuttle was to operate the robotic arm of the spacecraft.
Yeah.
You know, she was not a token woman.
Right.
She was a woman who was on a crew. I think it was the 7th space shuttle crew in 1983.
These are big deals, right? And, you know, and some people have pushed back and said, well, why are we not talking about the fact that Elon Musk sent the rocket up to get the 2 astronauts who were stranded, which I think is fair, right?
Very fair.
Boeing couldn't figure out how to do that, apparently, and so Elon Musk did it. And all credit to Elon Musk for helping those people get home. I do think it would have been kind of funny if Elon Musk had responded to this by sending his baby mamas into space. Can I say that on the radio?
Well, you just did, whether or not you can.
I just did. But I don't know. Again, I'm being facetious about this. I'm being snarky about it. But I know that, you know, if I had had the opportunity to be part of that career, would I have taken it? Maybe. I would have had a really hard time going with that group of women, I think. But the opportunity to go to space, if I had the opportunity to go to space, even if it were just for 11 minutes, I mean, every person who's been has talked about how life-changing it is and how you see the earth beneath you, and it just completely changes your perspective. And I don't want to take that away from these women, because I believe anybody who's in that circumstance would feel that way. So, you know, I'm being snarky about it, but I also think the idea was cool. Maybe the execution was a little less cool.
Yeah, but it did. I mean, here we are. We're talking about it the next day. So,
well, let me ask you. We have just a minute left here. Who would be on your list of people that you'd want to go in? Who's the female crew that you'd want to see in space?
Oh gosh. Well, definitely my old friend from NASA. Right. I would absolutely. I haven't spoken to her in years. I'm going to text her right after I get off of this. But her, Condoleezza Rice would just be cool, just from like a humanitarian perspective. And then I don't know, the first female engineer at SpaceX.
Okay.
Right. And just nerd out a bit on that crew. And maybe Caitlin Clark, just because I want to meet Caitlin Clark. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, all props to her. I mean, fascinating. Cool to see what she's done. Okay, that was a separate tangent. Thank you for listening to Inside Sources. Rusty Cannon and Taylor Morgan will be in the hot seats tomorrow starting at 1 p.m. Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News is up next. Have a great day.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 72 degrees. KSL's top story. We're hearing from one of the Utah college students who had his student visa revoked. You got to hear this. He's a married BYU doctoral student with 5 kids, and he has till the end of the month to get out of the country. The exclusive story from KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
Just, speechless.
Saguru Anda is just 1 year from having his PhD, but he just learned his I-20 was revoked without notice due to what the letter said was an investigation into his criminal history, but he doesn't have one. His attorney tells me he was cited for a catch-and-release violation on a fishing trip with the family back in 2019, but that was dismissed. The only other things on his record are 2 speeding tickets. Despite that, he was given 15 days to leave the country.
I feel helpless, nobody knows answer and nobody know what to do, what's going to happen.
His attorney tells me they're now fighting to allow him to stay in the U.S. until his visa is reinstated, but there is a chance Saguru, his wife, and 5 kids will have to fly back to Japan until this is all figured out. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Salt Lake City's first and second murders of the year, all in one incident. 2 men were murdered early this morning at the Comfort Inn downtown. KSL News Radio's Heather Peterson is live. She's at the scene. Heather?
Jeff, someone here placed a 911 call just after midnight, but Salt Lake City police say the caller hung up. When they responded to the scene, they found 2 men had been shot. They performed life-saving measures, but the men died at the scene. Salt Lake City Police Detective Michael Ruff says they detained someone they believe is a person of interest in this case.
We don't know if there's other witnesses possibly out there, but we believe we have all the people involved in the incident, and we don't believe there's any danger to the public at this time.
Police are notifying the victims next of kin, but they say they may release more information as soon as tomorrow afternoon. At this hour, the front desk tells me there are about 60 people staying at the hotel, and it's business as usual, even after this horrific incident. Live in Salt Lake City, Heather Peterson, KSL News Radio.
Thanks, Heather. Frustration over President Trump's policies took center stage at a town hall in Iowa. Maria Chaleos is live.